Hello, and welcome to Why I Love Warhammer, the series where I go into an unscripted ramble about why I love something in this hobby. And today we're going to return to the old webcam version of this series. And as you've probably already guessed, this was the April Fool's Day video, because, oh dear God, I love so much about this hobby, right? Miniature wargaming, Warhammer specifically. Obviously, I made my entire channel about it, and there are some things that you just can't defend, right? So, Leagues of Votan, for example. It's £25 for the Uthar the Destined model. That's one dude. It was about. How much was it for the Red Gobbo? Again, these are always unscripted. Right. Okay, the Red Gobbo Surprise was £25. That much plastic. We're talking the size of two segments of my finger. Conversely, the Rogue Hobbies Rascal Town miniatures. I've not painted this one yet. I've just done the Zenithal base coat. This was about 30 quid, and we're talking 4 times the volume, right? And there's an argument to be made of, oh, you're buying the things in accordance with like how many of them you're gonna want. Well, no. Because the Immolator troop transport, again, not finished painting this, that was 50 quid. £50 for that. And you'd be running, you can be running up to as many troop transports as you do troops. So you could be having up to 6 of them. The Games Workshop pricing, and that's not even getting into what they do if you're not in the UK. If you're in the UK, you've got a pretty sweet deal when it comes to how any of this work, in terms of how any of the pricing's done. But it's just not. But God help you if you're in Australia or somewhere else where the pricing is so much worse. And the thing is, right, this is the thing that really irks me. At the moment in the UK, where I am, everything's getting more expensive. I'm pretty sure it's happening globally, but I'm speaking from my own perspective here. Things get more expensive, right? My mortgage is about 75% more than it was when I started living here. My electricity costs so much more. Everything costs more. Food costs more, and when it doesn't cost more, you get less of it. So inflation's a thing, shrinkflation's a thing. Everything costs more, and this is a luxury hobby. It's for the luxury market, and so when things cost more, the first thing that gets sacrificed so that I can afford to do the rest of living are the luxuries. So my Warhammer goes to the sidelines. And that's sad for me, because I'd love to start up a Sylvaneth army for Age of Sigmar. I'd really want to get hyped for the Dwarf and Mountain Hold starter set, the Orc starter set that... so I'm recording this video on the 22nd of March. So it's been announced that it's going to go for pre-order on the coming Sunday, but it'll have been available for pre-order for like a week or so when this goes out, right? I want to buy that. I really want to buy that, but I can't, because right now for me money's a little bit tight, and I'm sure, and so I can't engage in those. I don't do any miniature painting when I'm not doing it on stream, because at the moment I'm trying to stretch out my hobbying. because I just don't really have the money to justify buying stuff. And again, I'm otherwise pretty comfortable. So if you're not as comfortable, yeah, these hobbies, that's the first thing to get ditched. I'm a huge advocate of getting as many people into this hobby as possible. Operative phrasing, as possible, because I want more people to share the joy. I want more people to be even 10% as excited about this stuff as I am. I want more people playing, I want more people painting, more people talking about it. I want it really in the cultural zeitgeist. I want to be in a position where I can tell people I play Warhammer and I can be guaranteed that someone else plays. That's where I want to be with this hobby. I want so many people into this game. But that's not a situation that you can easily justify to a lot of people when they look at, again, I got the website just behind my camera. So let's start 40,000, 40k, I've clicked start here. Currently, you got the starter set, which is £65, which is currently out of stock. You've got the introductory set for 40, and the ultimate starter set for £125. Now, when I got into this hobby very, very first, so before I even did 40k, I was doing what was then Lord of the Rings, now called Middle-earth. The £65 starter set, actually that's pretty comparable. It was the Mines of Moria, so you got the 9 members of the Fellowship, it was either 12 or 24 Moray goblins, 1 cave troll, and some small amounts of terrain. But this Warhammer 40,000 starter set seems pretty comparable. So fair play to them on that one. But if you want to start, if you don't want Space Marines or Tyranids, or you're getting into this game and you've got a friend who plays already, so that you don't need the starter set, right? Start with the combat patrol. It's how they want you. It's how Games Workshop want you to get into the hobby. That's £95 for most of these combat patrols. It's £95. That's pretending you don't have a rule book. That's pretending you don't need a rule book. That's pretending, and that's before you factor paints into it. It's a lot of money. £95 to just get into 40k. That's going to price a lot of people out of the hobby, and it's only going to get more expensive with time, and people aren't going to pay for it. It's going to be, Warhammer's going to be the thing that people say, not this month or not this week, I need to, what would I rather have? Would I rather get, just going to arbitrarily, would I rather get, God, it's out of stock, Leagues of Votan starter set, the combat patrol to get into the game for £95, or would I rather spend that money on utilities? That's not really a question that you should be having to ask yourself. Your general household expenditures come first. There's no defending the price model for Warhammer 40,000, or for Warhammer, right? If I'm taking, again, I say that, let's take the Daughters of Cain, because that new Crethusa model came out that I'd love to get. So, £65. £65 is still a lot of money. And that's the entry point. But, here's the thing, that's not actually the entry point. That's not the starting price. Because, okay, let's pretend again let's really say, right? This is a cheap bottle of super glue I got from a supermarket down the road from me, right? And let's pretend that let's do the example of a kid, right? Someone who's like 14 years old. I was 13 when I got into Warhammer the first time. A 13-year-old kid. Parents are spending the money. So let's pretend that they've got some super glue at home because it's just a tool they've got. Let's pretend that they've got the clippers already. even though the clippers are weirdly specialised, you can't just use a pair of pliers. So all of the tools pre-existing. You think, okay, £65, you've got the Daughters of Cain, Crethusa's nest thing, right? You've got that. That's not the entry point, because there's paints. And paints are, honestly, people talk a lot about how much the models cost. The paints are where I think it really messes up, right? So, like, yeah, these tiny paint pots of Citadel paint. This is a layer paint, going to filter by layer paints. $2.75 each. Now, if you get, say, if you're starting out and you get a generic set of 10, right? £27.50. Let's pretend for a moment that's reasonable. Okay, fine. Let's take that as the starting point. The 10 is reasonable, and we're going to pretend that you don't need to do an undercoat for the paint to stick properly. Again, you really do, but let's pretend you don't. That's not the paints you need. You don't need, if you follow the advice that's being given, you don't have 10 paints covering a white, a black, some, your primary colours. You don't just have white, black, red, blue, yellow, green. Let's pretend you don't need green, gold, silver, to have a couple of metallics. Say a brown, a flesh tone, and then, I don't know, insert your favourite colour here, and a technical paint to do bases, right? You don't have, that's not how it works, because if you follow any of the painting guides, they recommend so many more. They'll recommend you get like 10, 15 paints for one model. And like, your average Joe, right, isn't going to really give, if you need a purple, right, these are my 3 purples. Hang on. These are my 4 purples. I forgot about the Xerneas purple, right? That's a burgundy, that's a purple, there's a Sigvald burgundy, Luxian purple, Genestealer purple, and Xeruius purple, right? I've accumulated those over time, but most people starting out in this hobby probably won't be thinking, I need 4 shades of purple, and then they look at any official guidance and they're being recommended 6 purples. I don't have the colours here to follow any official guides. I've got 40 odd pots of paint in front of me, covering a range of colours that I've accumulated over a few years, and I still can't follow any official guides. Not one. I'm waiting until I've got a bit more money to buy the paints to paint up the Red Gobbler Surprise according to the guides, which I've never done before. I always have to improvise my colour schemes. There was one guide I got to follow which only required like 4 paints, which I used for my Harlequin kill team. And that's the only guide I've ever actually been able to follow. And again, I had a decently paying job back then that let me do that. This is an expensive hobby, and for everything that they do that lowers that barrier to entry, it's really hard to forget about stuff like the entry point, the pricing, the fact that for some games you need the bespoke dice, the terrain where if you're trying to replicate what's going on or you're trying to buy official terrain, good luck to you. When I play with my group, we've got some terrain that's probably from 5th edition, maybe 6th edition that we use. Otherwise, we're using mugs. we're using mugs and cardboard boxes and ashtrays, because using official terrain is really messed up. I got some magnet tiles a year or so ago. I painted those up to be terrain, because the 30 quid box of 100 magnet tiles was the equivalent of having spent like 300 quid on Games Workshop terrain. You can't defend this pricing model. And it's really hard to love. And I don't. It's why I've saved this video for the April Fool's Day video, because this is an entirely negative video saying everything about Games Workshop pricing model is too expensive. And that's not from the perspective, and that's not necessarily from the perspective of I want to get my models cheaper. It's not even necessarily from the perspective of kind of thinking that stuff should cost less than it needs to. I'm not talking about so two of my favourite channels I follow, Discourse Miniatures and The Outer Circle, right? Who go into all of the logistics at a deeper level than I ever could. Mac from The Outer Circle, I don't know if he still does, but he ran or runs a plastic injection molding company. He knows what this stuff costs to produce, and he's there saying that they're charging too much. Again, he's way more nuanced than that. But just for as it relates to what my ramble here, Discourse talks about she's a lawyer. She knows what she's talking about from that side of it. But so they're saying they're doing it wrong. They're too much. But the only angle I can really come at this from is trying to get new people into the hobby. The pricing model is not going to work for that. And the fact that it isn't just from the model's perspective. I don't think I've ever seen anyone talking about just how much Games Workshop paints cost. And they're more expensive than the competition. But here's the thing. Miniature paints aren't cheap no matter where you go. Let's use the Army Painter, right? So the Army Painter paints. Let's use their speed paint range. This is a range of paints I've been wanting to get, right? So their starter set 2.0 is €40. That's getting you 2, 4, 5. That's 10 paints for €40. It includes a brush. But again, we're talking a drop bottle. It's not cheap for what it is. And especially paint is expensive, and it's going to be a barrier to entry to a lot of people, especially because the first few models you paint are not going to be good. That's the thing. If you're getting into this hobby for the first time, don't expect your first model to be good. Expect it to look pretty terrible. I'll show you. I'm going to show on camera the very first model I painted. Okay. This is what a 13-year-old who was terrible at art, wanting to play Warhammer, paints, right? This is my Boromir. I only used the paints I got from the starter set. I missed a lot of spots. The shield and sword are the same colour. I used a flesh tone on the head, a leather for the face, just one block of red for the cloak. No nuance. The sand that they sold, I then just painted that haphazardly grey. I didn't get all the sand. This is a terribly painted model. I keep it this way so that when I'm comparing where I'm at now, where I still don't think I'm a good painter, but comparing that to my Demon Prince, even if it's still suboptimal, I like the comparison point for how far I've come. Point is, God, that's a tangent. Point is that most people's first model will look more like this than it will this. Especially if you're like me and you're trying to get more people into the hobby. The more people who are into it, the more likely it is that you're going to have a lot more of the me end of the art spectrum than one of my channel members, Richie, whose first model he showed me and was beautiful, right? There are going to be more me's in the world than there are Richies the more you expand the hobby out, and I'm a huge advocate for expanding the hobby out. The whole thing with the pricing model, like I said, paints are where I think they really get you. But yeah, like the fact that 2,000 point army is going to cost a fair whack of money, and 2,000 points is the standard. Like, all tournaments of 40k tend to be 2,000 point games. That's a lot of models. Like, when I tell people that I have 13,000 points of Necrons, 1-3-0-0, and a few more 2,000 point armies, everyone looks at me like I'm insane. Hell, why I had one YouTube comment asking I'm neurodivergent, right? It's a... 2,000 points is a lot of models, and I've been playing this for a long time. I've accumulated stuff. But for most people, for that to be the standard, that's ridiculous to me. I've got, I'll have a different video at some point, because I really want to put one up about how I think they should really do, how 40k should be restructured. But that's not this video. This is just me complaining about the pricing. It's not just too expensive for what it is. It's too expensive for a luxury hobby. It's too expensive for 2024. It's too expensive to get new people into the hobby. I want to recommend this game to people. I want to spread it around. I want people to say to me, I'm really excited by Age of Sigmar 4th edition, the new edition of Age of Sigmar. I know you play Warhammer, talk me through it. That's what I want. But it's hard to do that in good conscience right now. At the moment, if I've got a friend who says, I want to get into Warhammer, the first thing I do is I tell them to go to YouTube and look at the lore. Because that's sustainable in this economy. And getting a 2,000 point army isn't. And that sucks to say. I don't like being negative like this. I like being negative in other ways, off YouTube, that negativity can be fun. But this isn't fun to talk about, to talk about just how hard it is to recommend this hobby to people. Because it's a hobby I love. It's so hard to say that to someone. To say, yes, commit hundreds of pounds into this hobby. Spend enough money to get your 2,000 point army built, bought and painted, and it will cost you 2 months of electricity. That's not right. And people are going to be increasingly having to choose. And a luxury hobby like this, Warhammer's going to be what gets sent to the sidelines. And that sucks. Funny thing is, I've been planning this April Fool's video for a while. I thought, April Fool's video will talk about Games Workshop pricing, and I'll have like 3 sentences about the pricing model, and then I was going to talk about Godzilla. I was going to talk about Godzilla for ages, because I love Godzilla movies. Again, this will come out the couple of days after the Godzilla Kong the New Empire is released. So again, I won't have seen it as I'm filming this video. I probably won't get to see it on release day. I'm hoping to watch it April 2nd. So the day after this comes out. But it's still... But I didn't. I got carried away. And I just needed to talk about this because... Yeah. So I kid you, after one stream, my mum sent me a Facebook message talking about wanting to play Warhammer. I thought, this is great. There's kind of two ways of looking at it. Either I've converted her through my YouTube videos, or she's finding a way to connect with me, through the hobby. Either way, win, right? And I wanted to say, you should play Age of Sigmar, because it's more her art, it's more her aesthetic, it's the type of world that she'd enjoy more. I told her I recommended Warcry. I recommended the skirmish game, because that's, you buy one box of models, you buy some paints, and you're done. Because I want people to play this game, I want people to play Warhammer, I want people to play miniature war games. That's what I want to happen. But it's hard to recommend army scale games. I can't recommend army scale games. Maybe the Age of Sigmar new edition with the smaller play in a lunchtime is going to be a fairer price point. I doubt it. I think that the whole thing of playing a lunchtime is completely misguided. A 2,000 point game of Warhammer 40,000 is supposed to take 2 hours. It routinely takes me like 4 to 6. I play 2 games when I get together with my gaming group, we play 2, maybe 3 games, and we're playing from noon till 2 a.m. That's how it actually happens. If in the long shot that anyone from Games Workshop has watched this video, the longer shot that they're still watching 27 minutes in to just some guy talking at his phone camera because his webcam broke. And the even longer shot that they're in a position to change stuff about the game system. Stop telling people that a 2,000 point game of Warhammer can be played in that length of time. However long it takes you to play a game of Warhammer, double it. Straight up, double it to recommend to people. Because people learn the rules. People play and they ask, what's the AP on that? And they'll double check. And they'll say, hang on a minute, I just want to check if I can use the Lookout Sir rule here. They'll ask, oh, which one would you general? What does that spell do? It's not... You can't play a game as quickly as they do on the battle reports. I don't know how long those take to film, but it takes longer. It takes longer to play this game than the staff at Games Workshop think it does. And that's just the reality. So however long they think it should take, double it. Also, lunch breaks aren't an hour anymore. Lunch breaks are half an hour. So, honestly, it takes 10 minutes to set up a skirmish game. If you think a game takes half an hour to play, or miniature wargaming, I'm sorry, no. Half an hour is like maybe 2 turns of a wargame if you know your own army pretty decently. So, no. Skirmish games are the only way I can genuinely recommend people get into this hobby. I can talk about why I love stuff, but I can only ever really talk about aesthetics and where I know about it, the lore. Rules change, and I can't in good conscience ever say, oh, this was a good deal. My comparison point for a good deal, right, is, again, I have to have the preface for Games Workshop, because you have to completely adjust your frame of reference for what a good deal means in this hobby. And I always say my reference point for a good deal is the Indomitus box. It was like 57 models of Necrons, 57 models of Space Marines, plus a rule book. That's the important bit. And that was £120. So the 10th edition starter set if you adjusted for inflation, was also a reasonable deal. Again, it came with a rulebook. A rulebook that historically has sold for £30-40. That's how I define a good deal. So when I hear that, oh, the new Combat Patrol, £95 for 15 models is a good deal because it saves you money on buying them all individually, no, that's not a good deal. That is a marginal saver box from buying the products individually. But the pricing is wrong from the outset because none of it's a good deal. You get Age of Sigmar, 40k. You get one good deal of a box every couple of years if you play both game systems. That's what we're talking about here. The Games Workshop pricing model is fundamentally messed up, and maybe it's gonna recover. Maybe it's gonna be less of a bad thing longer term if stuff starts getting cheaper again. If enough people have a decent enough paying jobs that they can be playing it, but I cannot. There is no way of defending Games Workshop as their pricing model. The other thing is people will say, "Oh, but what if you play golf? Golf clubs are expensive." Yeah, it's a one-time purchase, and you're sorted until they break. You're not. There's never going to be a point in golf where they say a 9-iron is no longer valid. You'll never have if you surf. Once you've got your surfboard, unless it gets damaged, nothing to worry about. But the fact is that I know that if I'd made my entire Necron army to have Anrakilla Traveller as my warlord, I'd have to get a new warlord now because he's been written out of the Codex. I don't even think he got Legends rules. I'm actually scared for Age of Sigmar 4th edition because what if my 2,000 points of Skaven Tide are no longer a valid army? It's a silly list involving 50 Rat Swarm bases. I don't know how much longer that's going to be legal. I might have to I'll have to get new models for that. But yeah, for a hobby like this, the only comparable hobby, I'd say in terms of pricing structure, would be trading card games. And I used to play several trading card games. And after a certain point, it was far cheaper to only buy pre-owned cards because I could get exactly what I needed. Which meant that as much as I did end up spending on those hobbies, a lot of that money didn't go to the producers of the hobby, it went to the second-hand market. And honestly, the trading card game market is a whole other rant for a channel with a different focus, right? Because that's not a pricing model I'd defend either. I'd say that's the same. That's messed up for a lot of the same reasons that the Games Workshop pricing model is messed up. I'm going to have to wrap this up. I've been talking for 35 minutes about just how messed up the Games Workshop pricing model is. And if you're trying to keep up with new releases, just for your own army, right? I've got my Necrons, my Chaos Knights, where I'm buying, where I view it as a collection, so I'm buying all of their new models. And then my other armies, I'm just buying enough to stay game legal. But that's a thing of the past now. That's not going to happen. And even that I'm buying. That's still quite a lot to buy. That's it was 3 new Necron models this edition. We'll probably get 1 more Knight. So that's 4 models in. 4 models in a couple of years, in the kind of 3-ish years. Still a lot of models I'm buying. I'm getting through my backlog slowly. My backlog's currently finish off the simulator, 2 Red Gobbo Surprise, 2 Rascal Town miniatures, I was given this as a present from my other half. It's Legion from Mass Effect. So yeah, they've got Immolator, 2 Red Gobbo Surprises, 2 Rascal Town miniatures, Legion, and finish up the kit bash of the stage. I've got a 7 model backlog right now, which is a very small backlog by most standards. But I'm probably going to end up buying about that many models a year to keep up with my current armies. So I've got to wait a while, because it's not a cheap hobby, and if you've got to keep buying stuff to keep your collection up or keep your lists legal, if I've got to buy another box of clan rats or a new general to keep my Skaven legal, or if they just straight up say, oh, if they retire the rat swarms to legends, I'd probably stop playing Age of Sigmar until I got another army. Play the Legends rules until it becomes unviable. If they retire certain sub-factions, if they said, yeah, the Night Lords they're just not going to be a thing anymore, Chaos Base Marines will probably go bye-bye. If the Harlequins range got retired, I don't see myself ever getting the regular Eldar. Yeah, because it's not a cheap hobby to get into. It's an investment, and then when your investment gets retired off, that sucks. That really sucks. So yeah, I'm going to call the video there, because I've spent the best part of 40 minutes just being entirely negative, which is not what the channel's about. This is this video's an April Fool's thing. Get the clicks. People go, what? Why? I love Games Workshop pricing model. Click this, see what this arsehole's on about. But no, there's no defending the Games Workshop pricing model at all. It's terrible for everyone. So yeah, like and subscribe. I try and keep this channel positive, other than this April Fool's Day thing. And hey, maybe next year I'll actually do the Godzilla video, if the channel's still going by then. Yeah, drop this video a like, subscribe, comment whatever you like below. I'll say comment your grievances about the Games Workshop pricing model, because it's cathartic to do so. But feel free to comment any defences of Games Workshop's pricing model, because this sounds like I'm being facetious, but I'm really not. I speak really genuinely. I would love to, genuinely love to, make a video in a couple of weeks' time called Why I Love Games Workshop's Pricing Model, No Really. And start the video with, I did this as an April Fool's Day thing, and I talk about why I hate the pricing model. And then I read this YouTube comment, and it converted me. Because A, I love it when I can have my mind changed about something, especially something I feel strongly about. It's weirdly exhilarating. Weirdly enough, I quite like being wrong. It's why my Imperial Knights video, I got loads of stuff wrong in that video about war gear and what stuff was. It was pointed out to me by a YouTube comment, and not gonna lie, hurt at the time. But what that did, after a bit of time of, oh, this really sucks, was it made me want to learn more about the Imperial Knights so I could not be wrong. So yeah, if you have a defensive Games Workshop pricing model, please put it in. I will pin that comment. If it's one where I think, hang on, that's a really valid point, maybe it is a defensible thing, I'll pin that comment. I'll make a follow-up video saying, hey, I did this April Fool's, but actually this is the case. I'd love to do that. I don't think I will, but I'm open to having my mind changed. I genuinely am. So yeah, put a comment below. Let's talk about the Games Workshop pricing model, right? And then yeah, if you want to like and subscribe, because my content's trying to be a lot more positive than this video. Really like that too. And I've got memberships open on a Patreon if you fancy supporting this channel monetarily. Quickly thank you to current members, so that's Shri, that's Dried Shroom, that's Richie, and that's Ash at time of recording. Thank you very much to those 4 members of the Love and the Love tier. Dried Shroom, and I'm trying to do this properly, but there's no script. So I'm doing these 4 members from memory of it's Richie and Shri who are in the Love tier, Dried Shroom and Ash who are in the Love tier. I might have gotten Richie and Ash backwards, but so yeah, if I did, I'm sorry, but yeah, those are the 4 members right now. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I hope you're all having a really good day.